The crop field encounter. I was the designated driver among my group of friends after a party. My friends were Michael, Eddie, and Daniela. We live in the country, so anytime we wanted to go to the bars or parties, we'd have to travel long distances. That's why it's such a big deal for one of us to be sober enough to drive. We were driving down Highway 5 and 13, which is an unlit highway littered with the occasional house or two, but mostly forest. The road leads to town where most of the bars are. This story takes place on the way back from town. The night had been long. We'd spent hours at various bars, moving from one to another, and by the time we decided to head home, the clock was well past midnight. The darkness outside was absolute. There were no streetlights, no other cars, just the endless stretch of asphalt cutting through dense forest on both sides. The only light came from my headlights, which seemed to barely penetrate the blackness ahead. My friends were in various states of intoxication. Eddie was passed out in the back seat, his head lolling against the window. Michael was in the passenger seat, occasionally humming to himself or making incoherent comments about the night. Daniela was in the back as well, conscious but drowsy. As we drove, the road curved and twisted through the forest. The trees seemed to close in on us from both sides, creating a tunnel effect. I could hear the hum of the engine, the occasional crackle of gravel under the tires, and the wind rushing past the windows. The radio was playing softly, but I wasn't really listening to it. My focus was entirely on the road ahead, watching for any sign of wildlife or obstacles. Then Daniela started to cry that she had to piss really bad. I told her she'd have to wait a while longer. But not gonna lie, I started to get the urge as well. That mixed with the fact that Daniela was now screaming in her drunken fit. I figured why not pull over to the side of the road and just piss somewhere in the woods. The pressure in my bladder was becoming unbearable, and I knew we were still at least 15 minutes from the nearest gas station or rest stop. I slowed the car and pulled over onto the shoulder of the road. The gravel crunched loudly under the tires as I came to a stop. The sudden silence when I turned off the engine was almost deafening. There was no ambient noise out here, no distant traffic, no city sounds. Just the wind through the trees and the occasional sound of a night creature in the distance. Daniela got out first and disappeared into the crops on one side. I could hear her stumbling through the vegetation, her footsteps growing fainter as she moved deeper into the field. I went to the opposite side of the road and slightly into the woods, just because I'm the type of person who can't have people watching me piss. The darkness was so complete that I could barely see my hand in front of my face. I had to use the light from my phone to navigate, and even then the shadows seemed to dance and shift in unsettling ways. I finished first and got back in the car. Eddie and Michael were singing to the roaring radio music playing while I pretty much just sat there in silence, growing impatient. My two drunk friends didn't seem to find anything strange about the fact that Daniela had now been gone for 5 minutes, so I got back out to call her name. Michael has a much stronger voice than I do, so when he screamed for her, it would be impossible for her not to hear. But still, she didn't call back. I didn't want to go in those crops, but I kind of felt like I had to since she's my friend and I was the most aware at that moment. I forced Michael to come with me since I was afraid to go in alone. Eddie stayed in the car. He was just too far gone at this point. With the flashlight from my glove box, Michael and I pushed our way through the thick, overgrown crops, walking in the only direction we could think of, straight away from the car. Michael was calling Daniela's name while laughing his ass off. I can understand why he was finding it funny in his condition, but I just wanted to make sure she was all right and get home. Over the sounds of her own footsteps brushing crops aside and Michael's laughter, I heard something else in the near vicinity. I put my arm out to Michael's chest to halt him. Now all that could be heard was the night breeze blowing through the crops. "What is it?" he whispered. To which I responded, "Shh." Michael called out Daniela's name again. I joined in, figuring it was just her trying to sneak up on us and scare us, and again the footsteps stopped. So we walked a little deeper into the crops. That's when we came to a narrow clearing stretch. I don't know much about crops and farming or anything, but it seemed to be some little stretch for people to walk through. It was probably the width of 2 people, just enough to walk through. I looked to my left, as far down as the light would let me see, and then to the right. I could hear 3 footsteps and then a couple of crops pushed outward into the opening as somebody stepped into view. At first, my light was only revealing their legs, so by default on the circumstances, I assumed it was Michael. However, the light revealed it to be not Michael, but instead some random man who I'd never seen before. His facial features weren't clear enough to give a good description, but he didn't look friendly. My heart began to race. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. The man's presence was wrong. There was something deeply unsettling about him. He wasn't moving, just standing there in the beam of my flashlight, watching us with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I couldn't see his eyes clearly, but I could feel them on me, studying me, calculating something. I ran for it, back in the only direction I remembered coming from. I guess I ran so fast that it only took me about 10 seconds to make it back to the car. Eddie was passed out in the car at this point, so I didn't bother trying to get help from him. I was honking the horn again, Michael's and hopefully Daniela's attention. The sight of that man just disturbed me. I didn't know if he owned this land or not. I continued to land the horn until finally Michael came out of the crops, dragging Daniela, who seemed to be out cold. I got out to help him lift her back inside the car and plop her on the seat. Michael pointed out the gash on her forehead as if she had been struck with a heavy, sharp object. Michael seemed to be sobering up pretty quickly due to the situation. He advised I drive to the nearest hospital, which was 10 minutes away. The drive there was not fun. It was full of panic and yelling. We brought Daniela in to have her wound treated as soon as possible. It was only then that Michael explained to the nurses, not me, that he saw some guy dragging her collapsed, unconscious body before fleeing deeper into the crops after noticing him. He never mentioned that in the car, but it made perfect sense now. That man in the crops with us that night did this. Daniela was awake after she got all stitched up, and she had no recollection of the entire night. From the moment we stepped into the party to the moment she got struck in the head, it was all blank. All she knew was pain and confusion, and the terrifying realization that someone out there had attacked her in the darkness. The police were called and they checked what little evidence there was on the route home. But with all that darkness and the vast expanse of crops, they found nothing. No footprints, no DNA, no witnesses. The man had simply vanished into the night, leaving only questions and trauma in his wake. To this day, I still don't know what happened. I don't know if we were drugged, robbed, or both. I don't know if that man was a local or a stranger passing through. I don't know why he targeted Daniela specifically or what his intentions were. I don't know how I ended up in someone else's clothes or why my shoes were soaking wet. I don't know why I was able to send coherent texts while supposedly being incapacitated. And I don't know why the police were so reluctant to help us. What I do know is that something happened that night that I can't explain. Something that defies logic and reason. And every time I think about it, I feel a chill run down my spine. Because somewhere out there are people who know exactly what happened to us. And they're probably doing it to someone else right now.